Well, welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here. As you know, from week to week I have different shows, but this one is about interviewing a person. Interviewing someone and getting some information, and hopefully you're going to enjoy what the information and my guest will have to offer. Many of you out there, I'm sure, are pet owners. And of course, winter is coming on, and you have to be careful about your pets. You want to keep them nice and warm and cozy indoors, and when the weather is inclement, especially rainy, cold, damp days. Make sure they get a good food supply, and of course, keep them dry. And that's whether you keep them in a house or you're outside in some shelter. And of course, you read about the horror stories each and every year. Dogs half-starved, chained up. Recently, someone was charged in Westport starving his horse. I mean, these are terrible because, of course, most of these animals are pretty helpless. They can't just run off somewhere, especially if they're confined or chained. Yet you find a human or two now and then that treats them brutally, to say the least. And there's some stiff fines and even prison sentences for people who mistreat animals. So, just a caution out there, and I'm sure most of you who are watching, or all of you who are watching, are very conscientious pet owners. I have a guest who has been writing about pets, animals for years and years and years. He's very well known in this area. He's wrote for a number of papers. He's been interviewed a number of times, and I'm fortunate to have him here to interview him, to talk to him. So, welcome, my guest, Brian Lowney.
Thank you very much.
Very
it's a pleasure to be here.
Very famous man. You wrote for the Herald News for years. Do you still write for the Herald News? Occasionally?
I wrote for the Herald News for 10 years and have been now at the Standard Times for 10 years.
10 years, that's a long time.
So it's 2 decades of pet writing.
Wow. You must know something about the difference between a dog and a cat.
Hopefully, and I've owned both, yeah, but love them both.
Let's start off with some basic questions. A lot of people have dogs, but how many people do you think actually know that dogs are not what they really are, in the sense that if you have a poodle, it's not natural. Tell us how the dog, the generic sense of the word, the dog got its start, and the companionship between man and dog evolved.
Well, dogs evolved from wolves thousands and thousands of years ago. And in the United States, we recognize about 170 breeds. Throughout the world, though, there are hundreds and hundreds of breeds. And they were all developed with an intended purpose to accomplish a specific task.
Sheepdogs.
And they were bred down through selective breeding. And let's say farmers in Wales bred corgis with the idea of, through selective breeding, with the idea of developing a dog that could fulfill a certain purpose.
We have
such
dogs,
as herding.
We have dogs that fetch things, birds, so-called bird dogs.
The sporting group has about 27 members. Some of them are retrievers, some of them are setters. The Flushing Spaniels go into the water and bring back fowl.
Now the things like poodles, etc., chihuahuas, any actual function that these dogs have except...
The interesting thing about poodles, and I mention it in my new book, the poodle was developed in Germany as a water retrieving dog.
Okay.
They are expert hunters.
Were they always as small as we see them?
Well, there are 3 varieties of poodle.
Okay.
The standard poodle, of course, was developed as a waterfowl retriever. And we were talking a minute ago about selective breeding. People bred the miniature poodle and bred down to the toy poodle, the 3rd variety, for the intended purpose of companionship.
Okay, so Madam has her little poodle in the house and gives him a little hug and kiss every once in a while. So that poodle is just there for
But the
companion.
interesting thing, Richard, is if you went to an obedience trial, for example, and you saw a miniature poodle or a toy poodle in the obedience ring, they still have that instinct to retrieve.
I see.
And they are very good obedience dogs.
How about the Chihuahua? I mean, nerve-wracking. They always seem to be barking.
Bred in Mexico, developed in Mexico, the breed was developed for companionship, but also to alert. And they're very good guard dogs, as
Okay,
you know.
watchdog.
Not guard dogs in the sense of a larger dog,
Yeah.
but they do alert with their incessant barking.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the dog. Now, how about the cat? I mean, the cat, has been around for, centuries. How did the cat get its notoriety?
All I know about cats is that I've owned them for my 58 years, but cats have gone through history, as we talked before we went on the air, during the Middle Ages,
Without the
when they were destroyed in Europe. There was an increase in the rat population, which led to the plagues, and people brought back the cat.
yeah, the cat has a great function in society, and you want to keep those little rodents out of the yard and out of the house and out of the attic. So cat does a wonderful job. Good partnership between man and cat. Take care of the cat, give it a little food, it'll hang around and keep the rodents away. So, you've been writing for 20 years at least.
I've been writing professionally for 20 years.
Now, how
I've
did you
always-
get started writing? Do you have a background in English or literature? Did you go to school for it, or did you decide one day, through your lifetime of just writing things you'd want to write about an actual subject?
The funny thing is, when I was in college, I earned my degree in geography.
Oh,
And I used to fill those blue essay books.
oh yeah.
And I'd be writing and writing during exams, and I had many professors say, "You should be a writer. You need to go and write for National Geographic." Started writing professionally about 20 years ago.
Okay, so you made it.
Career move. I was teaching school and doing other things, and I decided that this is something I would like to pursue. And
Has it come natural to you? Some writers say, "Oh, it's a struggle. I have to wait for an epiphany before I can put the pen down to a piece of paper." You're able to just kind of get into it when you want to?
it can be difficult at times. We are, I cover a lot of different subject areas, but I always have an easy time writing about animals,
Good, good.
developing a passion.
Now, you've written a lot of articles. Now, I know you have a book. We're going to talk about it. Have you ever written a book before?
This is my first book.
Oh, this is a breakthrough. I'm glad to have you on a program.
Thank you very much.
Someone with the first book. So you're considered an author now, not just a writer, but actually, isn't it a step up? When you write a book, you become an author.
I guess that's
Don't
what you
be
could
bashful.
No, I guess that's what you could call it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, give yourself a little credit.
And
sure.
the response from the community in Fall River has been in the last few weeks that since the book was published, has been very gratifying.
What is the book about, basically?
It is called An Unconditional Love, Pet Tales to Warm the Heart. And I based it on my columns largely in the Standard Times and other writings. I do write for a lot of different other publications. And it chronicles the value of pets and the important role that they play in our lives.
Do they have a therapeutic?
There is a few
Paul.
chapters in here on pet therapy and on the uses. And I have already started a second book that is going to largely focus on pet therapy and some of the things they're doing with dogs.
Yeah, lately you hear that more and more, that someone who feels a little lonely, maybe an older person, they get a pet, and it seems to be something that fills their lives a little, especially if they don't have any family stopping by. Is that what you've
Not only that, but medicinal purposes as well, lowering blood pressure,
calming effect?
has a very pets, no matter what they have, even fish. If you go to your doctor's office, oftentimes physicians and dentists have aquariums in their office.
Now, people who live in areas, maybe they get sleepless nights because of certain things. You think that pet there, the dog, watchdog, near the door or near the bed helps them to relax?
I'm sure it does.
It's like an alarm.
Very definitely. And people who are alone are comforted, especially the elderly, with the presence of an animal.
Dogs especially, or even with cats?
Even dogs, cats.
Any other type of animal?
Parakeets are very therapeutic.
Okay. Anything else?
Pets play, and as I'm going to focus in the next book, pets play a very important role in therapy programs. Detecting cancer is one thing. They are alert dogs for children with diabetes.
Oh, I see.
That's a recent phenomenon in the pet world.
Well, the dog is supposed to be man's best friend, and I think in some families that could be the case, right?
Of course, but they need to be treated properly.
Okay. And what is the basic fundamental principles of treating a pet properly? I'm not talking about going overboard, you know, with a pet with a private bat and, you know, over to the, you know, the dog veterinarian every week. But what are some of the basic things? You have a pet. What should society expect of a pet owner toward its animal?
Providing quality veterinary care, good nutrition, exercise, and giving the dog the respect and unconditional love that it deserves.
So someone who has a pet but maybe is housebound would need someone to take, especially if it's a dog, out for a walk daily?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would agree to that.
Okay.
Very definitely.
Now, one other thing is I want to touch on is that cats seem to really want to be outside. I've heard that from many people. The cat will pace back and forth in front of the window and he watches those birds. And he really wants to get at one of those birds because they apparently have this natural instinct as hunters and actually cold-blooded killers. Keeping a cat inside all the time, is that a good idea?
Well, unfortunately, we have a lot of predators out there, such as coyotes and foxes and some dogs. And the cat could be killed by a car.
So
the trend is more or less now to keep your cat indoors. If you have a young cat as a kitten, train it to be indoors.
Okay, and they'll get used to it and want to stay indoors?
And they will develop a liking to stay indoors.
Yeah.
And they'll feel comfortable indoors, provided that you give them some amusement, provide some toys, give them some exercise.
The old ball of yarn, does that still work?
Ball of yarn, the feather.
The feather.
Now, I have a recent adoption. At my house, I have a new cat. She's 10 years old, named Rosie. She was going to be euthanized at a shelter in Rhode Island simply because they didn't have enough room for her. Mm-hmm. And she is an indoor cat and does very well.
Okay. Now, have you dealt with other animals that you'd want to make some note of at this point, that you find some sort of interest or peculiarity about them? Snakes. People have snakes. What's this with snakes?
I am not into boa constrictors, but I recently did a story in the paper in New Bedford at the Standard Times about a young man who has developed a very interesting business putting on reptile shows. And there is an interest. He has a strong following, and people are very interested in the natural science aspect of his endeavor, and he's doing very well.
Did you find that over the years that people either love snakes or hate them? Is that, can we put them?
Well, I grew up in a household with a mother that did not like snakes, so we never had them. And if she saw one in the yard, we knew about it.
Yeah. Yeah, some people really are very adverse to snakes. But in generally speaking, snakes around here, not too harmful.
I would not think so. I don't think there's many poisonous snakes.
Okay.
I may be wrong. I'm not a reptile expert.
Okay, what is your forte?
Well, I exhibited dogs for many years, Kerry
Okay.
Blue Terriers, and that's how I got started in my pet writing.
I see. So you were writing basically about some of your experiences with
My
your own?
experiences, and the interesting story about my background is I was at a party one night and the AKC, the American Kennel Club Gazette, is their house organ, their magazine editor, was at the party, and I approached her with a story idea, thinking, I've never written professionally. And she said to me, oh, that's a great idea, do the story for us.
Now,
And one thing led to another, and here I am.
yeah. Okay, so let's get to your book. Now, you've got this book, and is the book for sale at this
The
point?
book is for sale
And
locally.
Where?
It can
Where-
be,
where could
it can
someone-
be found in the gift shop at Charlton Memorial Hospital,
all right.
and many independent bookstores around here, such as Baker Books in Dartmouth, and other independent bookstores in the area.
Now, you decided, I imagine, one day you were going to write this book. So you put pen to paper, and you started writing the book. Now, did you, in the process of writing, think at the same time, how am I going to get this book published? It wasn't a private book; it was a book for the public. How did you go about getting or making contact with a publisher?
Did a lot of exhaustive research
Okay, of publishing houses?
of publishing houses. I found one that I would like to work with, and I approached them, and it took more than a year of back and forth dialogue, and they were very excuse me, they were very amenable to doing a pet book.
Good.
There is a very good market.
But it
in this
wasn't
country.
easy. It took a year, back and forth. Is this typical, or was this because of a unique situation?
I am told that I am very lucky that it only took a year, that other writers have waited decades, up to decades, to
get a
get books
book.
published.
That's amazing. Decades. I mean, I guess there's some books out there, the writer might be deceased. Well, so okay, you got involved, you got the publisher, you went back and forth for a year, and are you self-published or you have a publisher?
This is a self-published book, but it is not a traditional self-publisher because they've worked with me. It's an edited book. It had a cover design.
Okay, what's the difference? If you're a self-publisher, you just do everything yourself and have the books made up at a printer,
Yeah.
and then just,
Or a publishing house will charge an author a considerable amount of money.
and just produces the books.
And unfortunately, and this is even with mainstream publishers, these days, there is little marketing or publicity for a book. So you have to know a lot about marketing, and that's another thing. I studied marketing and book marketing.
You took a course
No, I read every book I could
on
and
marketing.
did a lot online to find ways to get this message out. And I also am very friendly with a lot of pet writers all over the world who were very, very gracious in giving me a lot of good advice.
Good. Okay, so the book is not what you might call a self-published book. You do have it in front of you, so it was published, it was made up. And let's get to the distribution and marketing.
A lot of the distribution, I am very fortunate that I'm working with Baker Books in Dartmouth, and they have done a lot to promote the book. They're carrying it in their stores. Other stores, I have a few copies that I have in other stores, like at Partners Village store in Dartmouth. And I've been, I'm very active in the library community in Massachusetts, so I've done a lot of library signings.
All right. Have you placed your book in libraries as, we might say, a gift? So here's one of my...
I'm very happy to say that a lot of libraries have ordered it.
Oh, okay. So in other words, that's a good sign.
That is a very, very good sign. And I've had some very successful book signings, and I'm going to have several more in the next couple of weeks. And I'm looking forward to...
Where might you be in the next...
I'm going to be next Monday night at the Fall River Public Library.
Okay, people out there, next Monday night, Fall River Public Library.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
I've been invited to do a presentation, followed by a question and answer period, and we're going to have a book signing.
At the Fall River Public Library.
At the Fall River Public Library.
Where might you be after that?
I am going to do one next week at St. Luke's Hospital.
All right.
And
is that the same, somewhat
in New
the same?
Bedford.
That's presentation and a signing thereafter?
And I have some others coming up in the
Do you
area.
actually give like a little lecture?
I've been giving a short talk, followed by a question and answer period, and then a signing. And the question and answer periods have been fascinating and have been very stimulating for me as a journalist, because they're giving me a lot of fodder
Good.
for future columns.
Oh, and how about future books?
Perhaps.
Would you
There's a
think
great
maybe?
deal of interest in pets.
Yeah. There sure is.
And everybody has a wonderful
when you
story
go down,
to tell.
when we go down to the supermarkets, you get 3 or 4 aisles just for pets.
I get stopped in the pet aisle all the time.
Do you?
And I am not a veterinarian, but I have interviewed several leading area veterinarians who have, given me some great interviews that appear in the book.
I see. And what's some of their what might you? I mean, pet owners, of course, need to take care of their pets. And what would be some of the basic things? Having
Providing winter care for your pets is a big thing.
Okay, winter care. Keep the pet dry.
Keep it away from toxic chemicals that we have in our garage. And antifreeze, for example, being one. A lot of pets love antifreeze because it has a very, not that I've sampled it, but it has a very sweet taste, I'm told.
Yeah.
And pets are attracted to it.
I have, and I mentioned this to you before, this cat. Apparently it was abandoned. I've sort of adopted it. I've been feeding it for a couple of years now on a regular daily basis. It's flourished. It's healthy. The coldest nights, rain, snow, wind, it doesn't want to come in. Just doesn't want to come in. Only rarely will it come in, and it doesn't want to stay too long. It really wants the outdoors, no matter how bad it is out there. And I wonder if I come to the conclusion, because this is their natural state of things.
Cats are very adaptable.
They're durable, and I mean, they are. They must just hunker down
And unfortunately, that's a growing problem. A lot of domesticated household pets, cats in particular, are being abandoned as a result of the economy. People moving and they're not taking their pets, and they can't afford to relinquishing fees and adoption fees at shelters. So rather than pay a fee to relinquish an animal at a shelter, people just move and leave the animals to fend for themselves.
I find that this cat loves dry food. I can give it a hot dog, a piece of chicken. It really doesn't want to eat it. It just wants to eat this dry food, and it's very inexpensive dry food. So my conclusion is simply that to feed a cat, it's not that expensive.
And interesting that you bring that point up, because a lot of people who cannot afford the price of food for an animal can now turn to shelters There's a lot of shelters in the area that provide food to low-income people, just so that they can keep their pets and not have to relinquish them.
Okay, so are we talking about cat food or just regular food that they give to the kitty?
Cat food.
Oh, I see.
There are many, many shelters and many cat shelters in the South Coast area that are working with low-income people to allow them to keep their pets.
Now, some landlords will ask the question, do you have a pet? And they don't want the pets. They don't want the dogs scratching the doors. They don't want the dogs howling in the middle of the night because they have other tenants. They don't want the cat in the house because if people don't daily care for that cat, there could be an odor that filters into another apartment. Do you find that to be somewhat of a problem out there in the world out there in regards to animals?
At times, but if people have a pet and they want to keep their pet, they will find a place to live where
Pets are
they can
accepted.
bring the animal.
Yeah. Some of the some places, some apartment complexes will allow small pets. You walk in and all the pets go off at the same time.
But a lot of places realize and identify the value of an animal.
Yeah. So we're getting down to the end of the program. You want to talk a little more about your book? Any announcements? Anything coming out you want to announce?
No, I'm just very, very gratified by the response from the community so far. And
Any anecdotes you want to leave us with? A little humor about a pet?
my pets have always been a very...
Coyotes are out there. How about the wolves? We know the coyotes are out there. What else goes after a cat? Dogs, but the leash law today kind of has eliminated...
has stopped that.
Yeah, 20...
But as we were talking before,
Maybe that's why the feral cat population has gone up, because the dogs are not out there like they used to be, chasing them.
and a lot of cats are abandoned. It's important for people to spay and neuter their animals. That's very important. But as we were talking before, wolves, coyotes, foxes
You find that there are foxes?
are coming into urban areas. They're migrating into urban areas looking for food.
Okay, you get the fox, you get the coyote, they're coming in. Raccoons, do they go after cats?
I believe so, and possums, and
Oh, and possums too?
yeah,
Possums got that big mouth.
and strong teeth.
Oh, yeah, they are something. Well, we're down pretty much to the end of the program. Brian, nice
Thank
to
you
have
very
you
much.
on.
It's been a pleasure.
We have to refer to you as an author from now on, and I hope Glenn is listening, so he pays respect. But always interesting to
Thank you very
get
much.
involved with someone who is doing something creative, writing about animals, and don't forget, take care of the animal. If you don't want to take care of the animal, give it to someone else or give it up, but don't abuse it. They're really innocent, and they have no way to protect themselves in the general sense of things. And if you find or you see anything, someone abusing an animal, call the Animal Rescue League immediately. Don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. Don't think you're a squealer. You're protecting the little animal, especially in the wintertime when you see a dog chained up outside day and night and not being cared for. So thank you out there for watching, and I'll see you next time.